All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So today we are going to continue to see the prehistoric and ancient Mediterranean worlds. So last class we learned Mesopotamia and Egypt. Today we are going to see Greece and Rome. So in Mesopotamia last week, we saw a city-state by Sumerian, first empire by Akkadians, and the second empire by Babylonian, and the third empire by Assyrians, and the fourth empire by Neo-Babylonians. And we learned Egypt. And today we're going to see the Greece, the ancient Greece and Rome. So Greece comes from Aegean culture. The artistic cultures of the Aegean parallel in time those of Egypt and Mesopotamia about 3000 BCE. And the last period of Greece is called Hellenism. And here is Rome. So Rome began before the century and continued to the 4th century. So now let's briefly see the Aegean culture before the Greece. So Greek culture arose on the land bordering sea, the Aegean Sea. So there are three Aegean major cultures: Cycladic, the Minoan, and the Mycenaean. So let's see the first culture, the Cycladic. So the Cycladic is centered on a group of small islands in the Aegean. And Cycladic art is a puzzle because we know almost nothing about the people who made it. And it consists almost exclusively of nude female figures like this. And the Minoan culture before the Greece. So the Minoan culture is based on the island of Crete. This is the Crete at the southern end of the Aegean Sea. The centered on the great city of Knossos. Knossos here. This is Knossos. The Minoan culture can be traced to the about 3000 BCE. And we take the name from the legendary king called Minos, who supposedly ruled at Knossos. The palace at Knossos features post and intel construction with painted columns topped by pillow-like capitals. So and good afternoon. And let's see the third Aegean culture of Greece, Mycenaean. So Mycenaean culture, so called because it formed around the city of Mycenae here, flourished on the south coast of the Greek mainland. And Mycenaeans built palaces and temples, but they are also noted for their elaborate burial costumes and tombs like Egyptians. Burial places in and around Mycenae have yielded large quantities of exquisite gold objects, such as a rhyton in the shape of a lion's head, like this. So, based on the three Aegean major creatures we just saw, now the Cycladic and the Minoan and the Mycenaean, Greek art arose, and Rome followed Greek art. The word classical refers to two cultures, ancient Greece and ancient Rome. So it aesthetically indicates artwork of the highest quality and standards. So Greek philosophers were the first to speculate on the nature and purpose of art. Sculptures, painting, and architecture were discussed as technique, in our words, technology and technique. So technique is things requiring a special body of knowledge and skill to make. So there are three artistic periods in Greek art. First one is archaic period, and the next one is the classical period, and the last one is the Hellenistic period. So let's see the archaic period first. This is called crater, and crater is one of many standard Greek pottery shapes in archaic period, and a crater was a vessel used for wine. This is Kairos, the Greek statue. This Greek statue depicts an anonymous boy in archaic period. So thousands of such figures were curved, all of them in the same pose, and all nude, young, and idealized, with the broad-shouldered, slim waist and bodies. And Greek female statue is called core. And let's see the painting technique. So the painting technique on the pottery is called red figure style. And the ground is painted black, while figures are left mostly unpainted, with only thin black lines to describe the forms. The red that result is the natural color of fired earth. And earlier, archaic pottery had employed the reverse color scheme with the black figures painted on a red ground. So now we see the classical period of Greece. So the classical period dates from 480 to 323 BCE, and it is considered to be the height of Greek art. The Greeks invented contrapposto. So this pose is called the contrapposto. This contrapposto, they invented the contrapposto pose of sculpture to express the potential for motion inherent in a standing human. And the bronze was the favored material for freestanding sculpture in ancient Greece because it's easy to curve out to make the natural pose and the skin texture on it. So now everyone, look at these sculptures. So let's compare these two styles of Greek sculptures, archaic sculpture versus classical sculpture. So we can clearly see the differences between these two sculptures. And what are the differences, everyone?
one is posing differently.
Yes, the posing is different. How different?
It's more expressive
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
opposed to the one on the left.
Yeah.
It's just, very still and stiff. You can tell it's a male, but for the classic one, it's more, what's it called it? Personality to it, if you will.
Looks
So,
natural.
It goes more into detail, the
Yeah.
classical one.
Yes, exactly. Very good. And in terms of materials, the left one, the archaic, the sculpture is using the marble, so it must be really hard to curve, right? And for this, contrapposto sculpture is using bronze. It's easy to curve to make a natural pose like this. Very good, everyone. So the left one is archaic, the period, the sculpture, Caros. So it was amazing achievement actually, to create the freestanding human sculpture. Despite of the great process, it still looks unnatural and less detailed. That's right, very good. And the movement is very limited. So we can find the movement only on the left foot. And on the other hand, the classical contrapposto sculpture shows incredibly natural movement and it has lots of details. Yes, it looks very realistic. So we can tell this is the height of Greek art because they finally mastered to create natural shapes of body. And although all ancient Greek and Rome art is broadly known as classical art, uh, produced during classical period, was considered by later European scholars to be finest of the finest. And Athens, so this is Athens. Athens was the cultural and artistic center at this time, and Athens was which was chief of the city-states and had been built around the high hill Acropolis. Acropolis. So this city's name is Acropolis. So this is Parthenon at the Acropolis. Greeks dedicated to the goddess Athena Parthenos or Athena the warrior maiden. The Parthenon is a Doric style temple with columns all around the external and the inner wall of columns on each of the short walls. Let's see the detail with this Doric style columns. So this is Doric style that the Parthenon has, we just saw. Doric style column is simple and classical compared to the other two column styles, such as Ionic and Corinthian. Okay, so let's focus on the columns shape. No, not the decoration part. So can you see the difference between these three columns? And what's the feature of Doric styles column compared to the others column?
It doesn't have a base.
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah, it doesn't have, the base. Yes. Now, how about the column shape? Can you see the difference?
It's wider at the bottom.
Oh, so the top, look at the top part of the column and the bottom part. Does it look like straight? So when you look at the top part of this column, it's slightly, smaller than the bottom part, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the Doric style's columns are not straight, compared to the other, the columns Ionic or Corinthians columns. However, the tall columns may appear to bend inward at the center, so they look absolutely straight from the viewer's eye. So this kind of column is called antithesis. So the architects of the classical Greek art calculated the relative errors by the viewers and applied it to the temple. So this is amazing because they did it 2,500 years ago. And the last period of Greek art is called Hellenistic, and it begins about 323 BCE. And this style emphasizes balance and restraint while also favoring dynamic poses and extreme emotion. So let's see how they look like. So these are all Hellenistic sculptures. So the sculptures of this era poses with theatrical quality and complex poses. So there is a video about Hellenistic art in Moodle Room, so please watch it to see more beautiful Hellenistic art. So now we can recognize the different styles by the Greek art period. The archaic period shows the limitation of the movement since the lack of technique. And the classical period shows the completed technique to create natural and classic freestanding sculpture. And the Hellenistic period shows emotions and dynamic movement beyond the classic. So that is the differences. So now let's move on to the ancient Rome. The Rome era begins about 510 BCE, and it overlaps the Greek era. The Romans admired Greek art and copied many of their works. So the most of Hellenistic sculptures we see are not original. The most of the original Hellenistic Greek sculptures were destroyed by the church during the Middle Age. So the most of the sophisticated Greek sculptures we are able to see are made by Romans. So we just saw the Hellenistic sculptures here, right? So these are all the copies by the ancient Roman. So Roman art tends toward realism. So as you can see on the left wall painting, all the figures look very natural and realistic. The Romans were best known for their architecture and engineering is the Colosseum. So their most so the Colosseum covers over 6 acres, and it has 80 arched entryways and exits. And it's accommodated over 50,000 people. So this is the inside of the Colosseum. So it's truly a symbol of Rome. All right. So that's it for the prehistory and ancient Mediterranean world chapter. So I hope you enjoyed to see all the ancient arts through this chapter. Now let's see today's discussion. So today's discussion is a little bit time consuming. So this is today's topic. Everyone, please go to week 10 and find discussion 10.1. So discuss the architecture of the ancient Greeks and Romans, and what advancements did each culture make in buildings, and why are these works still considered such marvels today. So we just learned the Colosseum for the ancient Rome, and we just learned this the ancient Greek architecture, Parthenon. So you can compare these two architecture, or you can pick a different architecture for this discussion. So
Oh, I was mute.